"I'm sorry, but you must be mistaken. This hotel doesn't allow walk-ins, especially not at this hour," the man at the front desk said with a stiff voice and a hard stare. His name tag read Thomas. The room behind him was warm and brightly lit, filled with the gentle hum of music and soft conversations from the nearby lounge. But at the front desk, it was tense. The woman standing across from him, soaking wet from the rain, didn't flinch. She was calm, but her eyes said everything. She had just landed after a 5-hour flight, her suitcase in hand, and all she wanted was to get to her room. But Thomas had made a snap judgment, one based not on policy, but on the color of her skin and the hoodie she was wearing. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know that she wasn't just any guest. She owned the place. In less than 2 minutes, everything would change. She was about to make him regret every word. But not by yelling. Not by cursing. By simply telling the truth, and showing him a little black folder she had in her bag. Her name was Amina Walker, and the hotel she was being denied entry to, it bore her name. The Walker Grand. But before we get to that moment, let's go back to where it all began. Amina Walker grew up in South Atlanta. Her mom was a schoolteacher, and her dad worked nights at a printing press. Life wasn't always easy. Money was tight, and she had to work twice as hard just to get noticed. But she was smart, sharp in a way that made people stop and listen. From a young age, she loved helping people feel at home, feel safe, feel important. In college, she studied business and hospitality. By 28, she opened her first small hotel. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean, warm, and full of heart. She named it Second Home Inn. People loved it. Her reviews skyrocketed. Guests praised the way her staff treated everyone the same, from janitors to executives. In just a few years, Amina had built a brand known for kindness, fairness, and comfort. Then came her biggest dream, the Walker Grand. A luxury hotel in the heart of Chicago, sitting proudly between the theater district and the lakefront. It was sleek, stylish, and successful. But Amina liked to keep a low profile. She didn't plaster her face on brochures or websites. She wanted the brand to stand on its own. Most staff didn't even know what she looked like. One night, she decided to do a surprise visit. She flew in without calling ahead, wore casual clothes, and arrived late in the evening. It was raining hard, and she had forgotten her umbrella. When she stepped into the hotel lobby, wet and tired, she didn't expect fanfare. But she didn't expect rejection either. The first person she met was Thomas. He looked up, saw her brown skin, messy hair, and damp hoodie, and made a decision right away. "Do you have a reservation?" he asked. "Yes, actually. Under the name Amina Walker." He typed quickly, then frowned. "I don't see anything under that name. Are you sure you're at the right hotel?" "Yes, I'm sure." He looked her up and down again. This is a 5-star property. You might want to try somewhere else, like the Midtown Inn across the street." Amina took a breath. "Could you please check again?" "I already did," he said flatly. "I'm not sure what's going on, but I've been traveling all day. Can I speak to the night manager?" He sighed. "I *am the night manager." There was a pause. A long one. She could have argued. She could have told him everything right then and there. But she wanted to see how far he would go. So she opened her bag, pulled out her folder, and handed it to him. "Maybe this will help." He flipped it open and stared. Inside was a certified ownership document with her name printed in bold, *Amina Walker, sole proprietor, Walker Grand Hotel. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Just then, a woman in a blazer walked past, glanced at the folder, and froze. "Ms. Walker," she said. "Is that you?" Thomas stepped back. Amina looked him in the eye. "Yes. It's me." And that's when the real story began. The manager's voice echoed behind her as she walked away from the front desk. We don't allow non-guests to hang around the lobby." Amina turned slowly. She wanted to respond, but she knew anger wouldn't help here. The eyes of other hotel guests were on her now. A few whispered. One older couple even frowned at her like she didn't belong. She stood tall, calm, but inside, she was shaking. Not from fear, no. From the cold, sharp sting of being judged by her skin, not her status. She reached into her bag and gently clutched the small black leather folder she carried everywhere, her executive credentials. She thought for a moment about revealing who she was right there. But then she thought again. No. Not yet. This wasn't just about her. It was about every other black guest who had probably been treated like this and didn't have the power she did. She needed to see more. Understand more. Let them make their choices without her influence. Instead, she offered a polite smile. I understand. I'll be on my way. She walked out into the soft drizzle outside and sat on the stone bench under the hotel's archway. Her assistant, Maria, had just stepped out of the Uber behind her, confused to see Amina outside. What's going on? Maria asked. I was denied check-in, Amina said. Maria blinked. Wait, what? But this is your hotel. Amina nodded slowly. Exactly. They don't know that yet. Maria's eyes widened, but Amina held a finger to her lips. Let's just see how far they go, she whispered. Back inside, the front desk manager, Peter, had returned to helping other guests. He chuckled quietly as he typed. Some people really think they can just walk in here and demand first-class service looking like that. The front desk clerk beside him, Jenna, gave a half-smile but looked unsure. She wasn't rude though. And she did say she had a reservation. Peter cut her off. Reservation or not, we have a standard here. People need to look the part. Otherwise, they could be lying, or worse, casing the place. But isn't that protocol, Peter said firmly. And if you want to keep working here, you'll follow it. Meanwhile, Amina and Maria sat at the cafe next door, quietly watching the hotel lobby through the window. Amina had taken out her laptop. She had logged into the hotel's internal system from her administrator dashboard. She watched Peter's activity live as he updated room records. He just cancelled our reservation, she whispered to Maria, pointing at the screen. You've got to be kidding me. Nope. He marked it no-show. Guess I never arrived. Amina's fingers moved fast. She began documenting everything. Screenshots. Timestamps. Notes. She didn't need revenge. She needed evidence. Back in the hotel, Jenna checked the cancelled reservation. Something didn't sit right with her. The name, Amina Cole. Why did that sound familiar? She picked up her phone and searched quietly. It took only seconds before her eyes widened in shock. There she was. Forbes. Business Insider. Amina Cole, the black woman behind one of America's fastest-growing luxury hotel chains. Jenna almost dropped her phone. She turned to Peter, pale. Peter, she whispered. I think we made a huge mistake. Peter barely looked up. What now? She's the owner. That woman. Amina Cole. Peter laughed. Nice try. You think someone like that would come dressed like that? Jenna turned her phone toward him. He leaned in. His smirk faded. Oh, no way, he muttered. Before he could react, the front doors swung open. Amina stepped inside, not alone this time. Maria walked beside her, holding a small rolling suitcase. Behind them, a man in a suit followed. He held a camera. Good evening, Amina said softly. Peter stepped forward quickly. Miss, I. She raised a hand. Don't speak yet. She looked around the lobby. I wanted to give this hotel the benefit of the doubt. I wanted to believe that what people said about how we sometimes treat guests of color wasn't true. But today, I was reminded that racism wears a suit and a smile. Peter tried to stammer an apology, but the man with the camera lifted the lens. We're documenting this, Amina said. Not for drama, but for accountability. The room was silent. Guests nearby looked stunned. Jenna took a quiet step back, her face red with shame. I am Amina Cole, she said clearly, founder and CEO of this entire brand. And as of this moment. She paused, her voice calm but powerful. You are no longer the manager of this property. Peter's face went pale. And I'm not done yet. Peter stood frozen in the middle of the lobby. His lips moved, but no words came out. His eyes darted between Amina, Maria, and the man with the camera, as if trying to understand whether this was real or a cruel dream. But it was real, very real, and every second of his arrogance was now catching up to him in public view. I didn't know, he stammered, finally finding breath. Amina gave him a calm, even look. You didn't care to know. That's what's worse. He opened his mouth again, but this time, the hotel's head of security, Mr. Louis, a tall man with a clean-shaven head and sharp eyes, appeared beside Amina. He had worked for her since the first hotel launch. Trusted. Loyal. And now, summoned. Escort Mr. Peter Langford off the premises, Amina said clearly. Yes, Wait, what? No, please, this is a misunderstanding, Peter pleaded as Louis gestured for him to follow. But his pleas only drew stares from guests who had gathered nearby, whispering and pulling out their phones. I treated every guest with... No, you didn't, Amina interrupted. You treated them with judgment, not service. As Peter was led away, Amina turned back toward the front desk. Jenna still stood there, visibly shaken. Jenna, was it? Amina asked gently. Yes, You tried to speak up. I saw it. That matters. I should have done more, Jenna whispered. You still can, Amina replied. But change starts with accountability. So you'll help me today? Yes. Of course. Amina glanced around the lobby, then clapped her hands once. Attention, everyone, she announced. I'd like to personally apologize to each of you who may have witnessed or experienced any mistreatment in this hotel. What happened here today is part of a larger problem. But this is where it changes. Right now. The room was silent. Even the guests in line at the check-in desk stopped. She walked behind the counter, typed a few things into the system, then looked back at Maria. I'm reinstating our reservation, she said. But then she smiled and turned to the room. And I'm inviting 5 guests tonight, free of charge. The first 5 people of color who were denied upgrades, ignored, or made to feel unwelcome, please step forward. At first, no one moved. Then a young black woman stepped up timidly. I asked for a crib for my baby earlier, and they told me they were all gone. But I saw one in the storage room. Amina smiled. What's your name? Keisha. You're staying in the presidential suite tonight, Keisha. And there's a crib already waiting there. Keisha's jaw dropped. More people stepped forward. A South Asian man. A Latino couple. An elderly black veteran with a cane. Each had a story. Each had been overlooked, brushed off, or denied something. Amina listened. She made no excuses. She simply fixed it. And people noticed. One of the reporters from the local news station who happened to be nearby pulled out a camera. Ms. Cole, would you like to make a statement? Amina nodded. I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm here to show what happens when power is used to build, not bully. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who's been told they don't belong in places they've earned. Later that night, the hotel looked different. Smiles were real. Voices were welcoming. And the energy had shifted. In the presidential suite, Keisha and her baby giggled on the giant king bed. The South Asian man dined in the rooftop restaurant for free. And the veteran? He was offered a week-long stay, on the house. But downstairs, in the staff break room, something else was brewing. One employee whispered, "You think she'll keep digging?" Another one nodded. You saw her face. She's not just here for show. She's going deep. Then came a voice from the shadows. Low. Nervous. She's going to find out about the secret bookings list. What secret list? Someone asked. The room fell quiet. Amina was already 2 steps ahead. She had just logged into the master database for guest filters. And what she saw made her heart drop. There was a list. A hidden tagging system. Color-coded. Red tags. For guests the system flagged as low priority. Next to each tag, notes like, potential fraud, watch behavior, or worse, monitor, minority profile. Her fingers trembled. It wasn't just one hotel. It was all of them. The bias was built in. She shut the laptop slowly. This was bigger than she thought. And she would not be silent. Not now. Amina didn't sleep that night. The discovery of the hidden guest tagging system had shaken her deeply. It wasn't just a rogue employee or a rude receptionist. It was a system, quiet, calculated, and dangerous. Her own hotel chain, the one she had built to represent excellence and inclusion, had been corrupted from the inside. By morning, she had printed out every page of the tag logs and guest notes. She highlighted patterns, guests of color disproportionately flagged, requests denied, and complaints ignored. The system had been designed under the radar. Whoever created it knew exactly what they were doing and how to hide it. She called an emergency meeting at 8 a.m. sharp. All department heads were required to attend. When they walked into the hotel conference room, they found her standing at the front with a large whiteboard behind her, covered in printed data, photos of guest records, and highlighted notes. No one spoke. No one Saturday. She began without a greeting. This, Amina said, holding up a sheet of paper, is a list of guests from the past 6 months who are flagged in our system under a code labeled RP, which, by internal note, stands for risk profile. Sounds standard, right? Murmurs spread across the room. But when I dug deeper, I found something alarming, she continued. Of the 212 guests flagged with RP, over 80% were people of color. Some were frequent guests. Others were fully paid in advance. Still, they were marked and mistreated. The silence turned heavy. A man at the back, head of guest analytics, shifted in his chair. I didn't authorize any of that, he said defensively. That system was in place before I joined. Amina raised her eyebrow. Then tell me why the IT audit shows your employee login as the most frequent editor of the tagging code. He blinked. I was told it was for security. By who? The room went still again. She walked over to the projector and clicked to the next slide, an email chain. At the bottom was a name many didn't expect to see, David Connors, the Vice President of Operations and one of Amina's first hires. Her expression tightened. David created this. He sent the memo. He used language like quiet protection and guest filtering. The staff stared in disbelief. Some shook their heads. Others looked down. Then she turned to them all. I built this business so that people from all backgrounds could feel safe, respected, and valued. What you allowed to happen undermines everything we stand for. She paused. So here's what's going to happen. She clicked a remote. The door opened, and 2 HR representatives walked in with folders. Every manager in this room is being placed under review. Effective immediately. Gasps echoed around the room. If you had knowledge of this system and said nothing, you will answer for it. If you helped create it, you will be held responsible. And if you were part of silencing complaints from staff or guests, you'll be removed. A tall woman from the events department raised her hand. What if we didn't know? What if we tried to speak up and were ignored? Amina's gaze softened slightly. Then help me fix it. She dismissed the meeting. Some left stunned. Others angry. A few stayed behind, asking how they could help. But not everyone was pleased. Late that afternoon, Amina received an anonymous text message. You're digging too deep. Watch your back. She stared at the screen. Someone was trying to scare her. She didn't flinch. Instead, she picked up her phone and called Jasmine Brooks, a friend and top civil rights attorney. Jas, I need your help. What's going on? It's not just racism, Amina said. It's discrimination built into the system. And I'm about to expose it. Jasmine's tone changed immediately. Where do we start? Amina smiled. With the public. That night, she called a press conference. The hotel ballroom was packed with reporters, guests, employees, and local leaders. Amina stood on stage, poised and powerful. I'm not here to protect my image, she began. I'm here to tell the truth. She held up a printout of the red-tagged guest list. This system was created to quietly target, label, and deny people of color fair treatment in our hotels. It wasn't an accident. It was designed. Gasps and flashes filled the room. And I'm not hiding from it, she continued. I'm cleaning it up. Publicly. Completely. And immediately. She listed the actions being taken: staff overhauls, external audits, mandatory anti-bias training, and full transparency with the public. The crowd applauded. But just as she stepped off stage, a hotel employee ran up, breathless. There's something you need to see. What is it? Amina asked. Your office. Someone broke in. Amina's eyes widened. She rushed upstairs. When she entered her office, her desk had been torn apart. Papers scattered. Files gone. But something caught her eye. On her laptop screen, a message was left open. Stop digging or you'll regret it. Her hands curled into fists. She looked up at the ceiling camera. Then at the mess. Then down at the message. They were trying to scare her again. They didn't know who they were dealing with. This wasn't just about her hotel anymore. This was about every person who'd ever been turned away, looked down on, or pushed aside. And she was just getting started. Amina stood in the middle of her ransacked office, her heart pounding. The threatening message glowed on her laptop screen like a warning flare in the dark. Stop digging or you'll regret it. She stared at the words. Then, calmly, she took out her phone and snapped a photo of the screen. Fear might have rattled someone else, but not her. She had faced worse growing up, fighting to be taken seriously as a young black girl in business school, dismissed by bankers, questioned by investors, and now, ironically, denied a room in her own hotel. But this was personal. She didn't call the police. Not yet. Instead, she called Jasmine. They broke into my office, Amina said, voice low but steady. Left me a message. There was a pause. You okay? I am. But someone's scared. That tells me I'm close. I'm on my way. Within 20 minutes, Jasmine arrived. Sharp-suited and composed, the civil rights lawyer scanned the room and nodded. We document everything. Then we take it to the press, the courts, whoever needs to hear it. Amina paced. They're trying to intimidate me. That means someone big is behind this. Someone with a lot to lose. Jasmine opened her laptop. Let's find out who. They started digging. Together, they began sorting through internal emails, server logs, and employee messages. They discovered more than just the red tag guest system. There were private conversations between high-level executives discussing guest filtering, hiding complaints, and, most alarming of all, plans to expand this guest profiling model to other branches in the hotel chain. It wasn't just one hotel, Jasmine whispered. It's an entire network. The proof was damning. Amina called her IT head. I need full security footage pulled for the past 48 hours. I want to know who entered this office. He hesitated. There's something you should know. The hard drives were wiped remotely this morning. We lost everything. Amina's blood ran cold. Someone on the inside was working overtime to cover their tracks. Just then, the front desk called. There's a gentleman here asking for you. Says he's from Central Operations. Tell him to wait in the lobby. Amina turned to Jasmine. We need to be smart. Together, they walked down to the lobby. A well-dressed man in his 50s waited by the front desk. Slick hair, a charming smile, but something in his eyes was cold. Amina Brooks, he said, extending his hand. I'm Patrick Geller. I help manage executive oversight for the board. She shook his hand, cautious. You're not on my team. I'm on the board's team, he said smoothly. They sent me to help contain this situation. There's no situation, Amina replied, crossing her arms. There's a system of racism we're exposing. That's not a PR issue. That's a justice issue. He smiled again, thinner this time. You're a smart woman. Surely you know it's better to solve these matters quietly. Discretion is power. I used to believe that, she said. Now I believe silence is consent. Patrick stepped closer, voice lowering. You risk more than just your reputation here. If this gets out the wrong way, it could bring your whole chain down. She didn't flinch. Then maybe it needs to. He leaned in. You're making enemies you don't even see. I've been doing that since I opened my first hotel, she said. But thank you for the reminder. Without another word, Amina turned and walked away. Back in her office, she locked the door and pulled out her journal. It wasn't for notes or meetings, it was her anchor. She flipped to a blank page and wrote, When they try to silence you, that's when your voice matters most. That night, she sent a message to every employee at every hotel in her chain. It read, If you have witnessed or experienced unfair treatment in our hotels, staff or guest, I want to hear your story. Directly, privately, safely. You can email me at speakup@brookslegacyhotels.com. No punishment. Only truth. The inbox exploded overnight. Hundreds of emails poured in. Stories from guests who were watched while they ate. Staff who were told to avoid speaking Spanish. Black employees who were repeatedly passed over for promotions. The pattern was no longer just in her hotel. It was everywhere. The next day, Amina held another press conference. But this time, she invited staff members to speak. One by one, they stood beside her. Marcus, the concierge who'd once apologized to her for the receptionist's treatment. A Latina housekeeper named Rosa who had faced years of whispers and side-eye. A young Asian American manager who had been told to act more American in interviews. They told their stories. And the world listened. Media outlets picked it up. Celebrities shared it. Social media buzzed with #BrooksTruth and #SheOwnsIt. But even as the praise rolled in, Amina knew the battle wasn't over. At 11 p.m. that night, she received a final message on her secure line. A file. No message. No signature. Just a single video clip labeled, Boardroom, Private. She clicked it open. It was a recording of a board meeting from 2 months ago. In the video, she heard Patrick Geller's voice. If she finds out, we bury it. We've done it before. We can do it again. Another voice replied. She's too public now. If we push too hard, she'll go to the media. Geller, then we take it from her. Quietly. Legally. We control the board. 1 vote, and she's out. Amina stared at the screen, heart racing. They weren't just trying to silence her. They were planning to remove her. Amina didn't sleep that night. The video played over and over in her mind, Patrick Geller calmly plotting her removal, the other board members quietly agreeing. The very people she trusted to help her lead the Brooks Legacy hotels were sharpening knives behind closed doors. But they underestimated her. By morning, Amina had a plan. She called Jasmine and forwarded the video clip. They're going after my seat, she said. They want to vote me out. Jasmine didn't sound surprised. Then we beat them at their own game. Amina convened a private strategy session with her legal and PR teams. We're going public, strategically. I want to control the story before they twist it. They crafted a press release, scheduled interviews with trusted reporters, and prepped a detailed internal memo for all Brooks Legacy Hotel employees. The memo explained what was happening, that a vote was being planned to remove the very founder of the hotel chain under suspicious motives, just as she was exposing a pattern of racial discrimination. But the most powerful move came next. Amina called an emergency shareholders meeting. And then she flew to New York to confront the board in person. The boardroom on the 40th floor of the company's headquarters felt cold and hostile. 13 members sat around a glossy oak table, pretending not to squirm when Amina walked in wearing her signature navy blue suit. She wasn't here to beg. She was here to defend everything she had built from the ground up. Patrick Geller greeted her with a faint smile. Amina, this meeting is for board members only. She held up a legal envelope. Actually, according to the bylaws, Section 14, Paragraph B, the CEO has the right to attend any session that discusses company leadership or governance. Patrick's smile faded. She took her seat. I've seen the video, she said, placing a small tablet on the table. The one where you talked about taking it from me quietly. The one where you admitted to suppressing complaints and burying evidence. Gasps rippled around the room. Some board members looked shocked. Others looked scared. Patrick tried to play it cool. That recording was taken out of context. Amina cut him off. The context is clear. While I've been trying to fix the racism in our hotels, you've been trying to fix me. But I won't be fixed. I won't be removed. And I will not be silenced. Then she stood. Behind her, the glass door opened. One by one, employees entered the boardroom, housekeepers, bellhops, concierges, assistant managers. They had flown in from across the country, all wearing Brooks Legacy name tags, all holding signed petitions in support of Amina. Jasmine followed with a binder full of testimonials from staff, guests, and former employees. Amina placed it on the table. 2,000 voices, she said. And counting. If you try to vote me out, you won't just lose a CEO. You'll lose your staff, your guests, and every ounce of public trust we've earned. There was silence. And then, for the first time in days, Patrick looked nervous. You can't scare us with a few testimonials, he said stiffly. Amina smiled. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to lead. But I promise you this, if you try to steal what I built, I will make sure the world knows exactly who tried to stop change from happening. Then she turned to the rest of the board. I'm not the threat. I'm the solution. But if you want to go ahead with your vote, do it now. Let's see who's really on the side of progress. One by one, the board members lowered their eyes. No one moved. No one called a vote. Amina had won, for now. But the story was far from over. Later that night, she returned to her flagship hotel. The lobby had been restored. The receptionist who had denied her a room, gone. Policies had changed. Signs now welcomed all guests, in multiple languages. And staff, newly trained, smiled with genuine warmth. As Amina walked through the building, guests paused to say thank you. Employees nodded respectfully. But when she reached her office, there was one last surprise. Sitting on her desk was an envelope. Inside it was a typed note. "You might have survived the board. But the game's not over. Watch your back." Amina folded the note carefully, placed it in her drawer, and locked it away. She picked up her phone. "Jasmine, I think someone's still coming after me. And I want to find out who." Rain poured heavily outside as the city lights blurred against the windows of Amina's office. The threatening note sat locked in her drawer, but its presence weighed heavily on her mind. Someone was still trying to take her down, quietly, secretly. And she had a feeling Patrick Geller wasn't working alone. Amina gathered her team the next morning. Jasmine, her head of security, and the company's compliance officer sat across from her. "We're not going to play defense anymore," Amina said. "We're going to dig. We're going to find out who's still trying to sabotage everything we've built." Jasmine nodded. "You think someone's feeding information to the press? Or trying to manufacture a scandal?" "Both," Amina said. "We need a full audit. Emails, expense reports, phone records. I want everything from the last 6 months reviewed. Quietly." Meanwhile, Amina made a bold move. She opened her schedule to visit multiple Brooks Legacy properties, unannounced. This time, she traveled without press, without suits, and without bodyguards. She wanted to see if the changes she was pushing were real, or just surface deep. At a property in Dallas, she watched as a black couple was welcomed warmly, helped by attentive staff, and upgraded without asking. In Chicago, a formerly cold hotel manager now led inclusion training for his team, and thanked Amina personally. But in Miami, she saw something else. A black single mother with 2 kids tried to check in. The front desk clerk, a man in a pressed white shirt, gave her a sour look. "Sorry, your card was declined." She looked confused. "That's impossible. I just used it to book a ride here." Amina stood in the corner, watching. Then the clerk said, "You'll need to step aside. You're holding up the line." Amina walked straight to the counter. "Run her card again," she said. The clerk looked up, annoyed. "Who are you?" "The woman who signs your paychecks." The room fell silent. He swallowed hard, then ran the card again. "Approved. I'll be speaking to your manager shortly," Amina added calmly. She turned to the woman and said, "I'm so sorry you were treated that way. You're not just welcome here, you belong here." Word of the incident reached social media within hours. But this time, Amina was praised, not just for what she said, but for being present. For caring. For backing up her words with action. But her relief didn't last long. Back at headquarters, Jasmine burst into her office with a file in hand. "I found something," she said, locking the door behind her. "There's been a leak. Someone's been giving confidential internal memos to a private equity firm, one that's been eyeing Brooks Legacy for a hostile takeover." Amina's chest tightened. "Who?" Jasmine opened the file. Patrick Geller. And 2 other board members, Angela Knox and Richard Sung. They had been building a case that Amina's focus on inclusion and change was hurting the brand, damaging profit margins, and alienating traditional clients. They wanted to create a scandal. Force her resignation. Then sell the company to the private firm for billions. "They were hoping the incident at your hotel would trigger the perfect PR nightmare," Jasmine said. "But instead, it did the opposite." Amina felt a chill. "We need to act now. Before they make their move." She didn't just fire Patrick, Angela, and Richard, she exposed them. With legal proof, internal emails, and whistleblower protection granted to a junior assistant who had secretly been recording meetings. At the next shareholder summit, Amina took the stage with confidence and transparency. She told the truth. She showed the recordings. She played the videos. And when she finished, the entire room stood to its feet. Not just in applause. In support. By unanimous vote, Amina was given full executive control of Brooks Legacy hotels. Policies were rewritten. Training became mandatory across all 200 properties. A permanent dignity and diversity team was formed. Promotions were tied not only to profit, but to fairness, ethics, and guest treatment. Months later, Amina stood on the same hotel steps where she was once denied a room, now under a golden banner that read, "Everyone belongs here." News cameras rolled. Her team stood beside her. Jasmine smiled proudly. Amina addressed the crowd. "This journey wasn't about revenge," she said. It was about respect. Not just for me, but for every person who's ever been told they don't belong. This hotel started with a vision. Today, that vision is real. A little girl in the crowd, holding her mother's hand, looked up at Amina with wide eyes. "You own this whole hotel?" she asked. Amina knelt beside her and smiled. "I do." The girl smiled. "I want to own something big too." "You will," Amina said. "And when you do, make sure everyone feels welcome in it."